Texas, 151,213 men and women that are incarcerated. That's just in Texas, out of the 2 million and something in the United States. We have a very bad problem here because African Americans in Texas is 13%, while 27% are in jail. It's a typo here, Dan. You got 33% that's in prison. Those are the numbers. While 4 in 10 Texans are African American or Hispanic or Latino, 7 in 10 prisoners are Hispanic or Latino or African Americans. That's what you have. These are not numbers made. I want to let y'all know that I'm over the Region 4. I'm over Region 4. That means I'm over the prisons from San Marcos down to Brownsville, all in the valley, Santa Anita, all of those. All the programs, that means putting the curriculum in there, life skills, putting all the programming, hope events. Now I'm bringing gospel artists in there, but the main thing that I do is make sure the curriculum, they learn curriculum. You can teach all the Jesus you want to, but if the men don't have life skills, you're not accomplishing anything. Plus, we are the worst city there is. What you called me here to do today is tell you about reform. This city is the worst city in the state of Texas for reform. Most of our people who go to prison, which is many, very many, in San Antonio. Torres Unit, I got a program there. Briscoe Unit in Dilley, program there. Connolly Unit down in Kennedy, Texas, where the Texas 7 broke out, got a program there. Dominguez, I got a program there. I got it put like what they call PF Academies. We started academies, and that academy is 9 books, year-long extensive training. Personal growth, responsible thinking, change plans, managing my life, maintaining positive relationship. That's the core. Then you have boundaries, inside, outside, dad. That's a curriculum that I worked with a gentleman, and we came up, it took about 6 years, inside, outside, dad. That means you in there, and then you out, you back. So we're working with that curriculum, also the Alpha curriculum. We got conflict resolutions, but those are extensive programs. Then it used to be Carol Vance Unit down in Sugar Land, but now it's called the Prison Fellowship Academy, where the guys now who do real well, we send them down there, and after 18 months, they get out. But those are the people that are now eligible after 20-something years. I only deal with, to be truthfully, myself, Pastor Wilson, he's been with me a while. We deal with murderers. We deal with violent men. Because a lot of violent men, you got to realize they didn't just become violent. Things happened to them as children coming up, and they became violent. And it's because of anger that they have about what happened to them. I got a young man down there from San Antonio that's in Connolly Unit. He just turned 42 years old. He did a heinous crime here in San Antonio. He's 42, but he went there, and he's been there since he was 16 years old. They're getting ready to do a news special on him, and he's getting ready to get out, but he got to do 3 more years. But you're looking at this, and this is a sad number, sisters. Women of Latino, Hispanic, and African American make up 87%. 87% of the 8,856 female women that are in prison. You go up to Lockhart up there, it hurts your heart. Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Temple, Waco. But it's 8,856 sisters up in that prison. Now, I want to be truthful with you, Pastor Daly. That's why I wish they were here, because it's not fair, the sentencing. It is not fair. I know we got a lawyer back there. It is not fair, the sentencing guidelines. I'm also on the advocacy team for Prison Fellowship, where I'll be up in Washington, D.C. We are the ones started that Second Chance program, okay? We are the one that changed that law from powder cocaine and crack cocaine. We was the one that went back and reviewed that Susan Reed area. We reviewed that era. And believe it or not, it's about maybe 810 men have got out of prison in the last 6 years from being, not saying that they didn't do it, but we're saying where Stone Oak and Timberwood Park, where they kids can get caught with an ounce of cocaine and they'll get 3 or 4 or 5 years, but a kid on the west side, south side, southeast side, east side, they get caught with the same amount of drugs and they almost get a life sentence. They had no choice but to look at it, and that's up on the floor in Washington, D.C., where that changed. It took some years. But let me say this. When I first got this job, I think I told you this, Dr. Daly, I said, Chuck Colson's son, his name is Christian. And when I first got this job, we was on the Zoom call, and he said these words to me. He said, Reverend Culpepper, he said, I see the African-American church and African-American community is doing very well. I'm thinking this is a good thing. I said, well, thank you. He said, but the community around them are going to hell. That's what that man said to me. That's what made me get out and start coming to the Baptist Ministers Association, because I told him, I said, give me some data, and he sent me the data. He sent me the data. And with that data, this community, the east side, southeast side, south side, that data showed that it's a lot of people that are in prison around churches. Yes, it started at the family. Yes, it does. But the church also has some responsibility. The church has some responsibility. That's why Second Chance Church here, 1. Mount Zion, Second Chance Church, 2. Mount Zion, Second Chance Church, where they can come get boots, stuff like that. Right here where they can come and get help to go. But that's the size of it. That's it. Not Antioch, or not a true, not any of the other churches. 2 churches. 2 churches. These are the jobs that they gave me an opportunity they trusted me with 40 slots each place where they only hire offenders. Waste management, right across from the cemetery over down East Houston Street. Dollar Tree Warehouse, HEB Warehouse on Foster Road. Okay? Those were the main ones where they get pretty good money. But the other job, they have so much problems with drug and alcohol and being sex offenders. Because, I hate to say it, we have a lot of sex offenders that people don't really know about that's in prison. A lot of them, yes, 15, 16-year-old girls say they're a certain age, but you got a lot of them that you know, you really would be shocked. And I'm talking about in the African-American community, Hispanic communities. Yes, the Caucasian have some, but it is outrageous. Murder. Getting housing and other things, we got to work on that, because, and I just hate to say this, but our families are the worst people that men and women who are getting out of prison when they come back home. And the reason why that is, because the first thing they hear is when you going back. Nothing encouraging. nothing encouraging. I know it's short time. I know I probably have about 3-4 minutes, but I got the cards right here. I'm going to leave these cards, and you all can get these cards. You can call me. Volunteers, they need them, especially the women in the women prisons. Because you got to be realistic. We can only relate to certain groups. So I have a lot of volunteers, 45 of them, that try to cover those prisons. But the reform, we don't have really any reform. I can't really tell you about it because one young man is getting out, supposed to be able to go to a halfway house, David Gaynor, and he did 26 years at Taurus unit. He finally get out. We think we got him a halfway house, and the halfway house tell us that he need $800. But to God be the glory. God be the glory. We was having our volunteer appreciation, and this is a young man here that Pastor Andrew Wilson, that this guy can preach. He graduated from the preacher's class about 6 times. And so we raised the money for this young man to get out. But the thing of it is that I can talk about where I come from, okay? I've seen too many people come to my church that have gotten out of prison, and people look down their nose at them. And if the truth be told, the only difference than with them and a whole lot of us, they got caught. They got caught. So I thank you for this time, but yes, for us to reform, still working on it, still trying to get people to do things. But I thank you all. I'm going to leave cards. I'm going to leave the cards right here, sister, and you can give the cards out to them. But I appreciate this moment, but there's still work to do, and I know that we appreciate the kids, appreciate still if you guys are doing Angel Tree. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Culpepper. And yes, we still do the Angel Tree under the Social Justice Ministry, and we'll be doing that again, I'm sure, this year. Yes, sir. Did you want to say something? Oh, okay. Here's 3. Thank you. Let's give Reverend Culpepper another round of applause. Next, we're going to move on to Will's Estates, and the presenter is Attorney Cleophas Marshall III. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you all as we prepare to go forward. First of all, I'd like to give honor to God, allowing me to be here. Pastor Daly is always such a gracious host. Sister Daly, always such gracious people to allow you to come into the church. It's God's house, but God did give them stewardship. And so he's appointed them and all of you who've allowed us to be here today. Reverend Culpepper, your words are very important for this hour. My presentation is on estate planning, but I have been an attorney since 1996. I've handled everything from capital murder to sexual assault to stealing of vehicles for 2 years here. Every car theft case came across my desk for 2 years. If your car was stolen here in Barrett County, I saw that case. I was the car czar for 2 years, and I did gang injunctions. I prosecuted cases for nearly 10 years. I've been the criminal defense attorney for 15 plus years, and I've seen just about everything. I've stood with people who have been given capital life sentences. That's life without parole. Never going to get out unless their case is appealed successfully. And here in Texas, that is very unlikely, very unlikely. I have cases right now where I believe that the punishment is too harsh. I'm trying to help a young man right now out of another county who allegedly was with someone underage but had no idea because of the social app that they were on. And statutorily, it doesn't matter. A person can come and tell you they are 21 years old, they could be 16 years old, you don't know it. If you engage in sexual activity with them, you're guilty. It doesn't matter. They can say, I showed you a birth certificate, my mother introduced, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So those are the kind of things. So when Reverend Culpepper was talking, I understood, I understand. And I think the only way that really changes, that we really put teeth in it for change, is by who we elect. So who you elect is very important. And I think that we really need to start pushing legislators to really do the right thing and not just the political thing. And what I mean by that, just the example I just gave you with the statutory law, there needs to be a legislator who will say that there should at least be a presumptive or a rebuttable presumption that if a person says they're a certain age and there's evidence to show that they communicated they were that age, and a person had absolutely no intent to engage with a minor, then they should be able to rebut that. I think that's important because what you're trying to do is get predators off the street, not people who made a mistake. Okay, so I just, for Reverend Culpepper to go before me, I've just tried too many cases and I know so much of what he's talking about. I'll end with this right now with regard to that, and I'll get into my presentation. Parents, you have to also pay attention to your children and try to put them in environments such as this church that will help to educate them on the real world around them. Because, it's one thing to buy them nice tennis shoes, get them a cell phone and earpods and all of that kind of stuff. But they really need to know that if they allow themselves to become a target, there are hunters out there that see them as the prey. And, some of us, when we go into that courtroom, it doesn't matter what your evidence is in your favor. When you are that person's target, they're going to find a way to find you guilty. The last capital murder case I had, a young man, the medical examiner, who was a state's witness, testified in such a way that was in our favor, that if you believe the state's medical examiner, the only conclusion is that my client is not guilty. The jury found him guilty, after which I talked to the only African-American juror on that panel, and she said that they did not believe the medical examiner. In all the years I've been practicing law, I never heard that. That was the state's medical examiner. We agreed with that testimony. If you believe him, my client's not guilty. They chose not to believe him. That's what we're dealing with. Pastor, I just got to say this real quickly because you put something on me for him to present it right before me is tough. Tell your friends and family, especially African Americans, stop trying to get off juries. I cannot tell you how often I'm in court. We come into court and we're looking for every reason to get off the jury. I got to go do this. I got to do that. And then when the person's found guilty, why can't they get a fair trial? Because you did not bring your experience into that jury room. You look for every reason. And then if you are selected as a juror, just because you're the only African American or Hispanic on the jury, don't think that other people's thoughts, opinions are better than yours. The experiences you learn in Denver Heights is just as important as experiences learned in Alamo Heights. Okay? So you got to bring all those experiences to bear, because people don't understand phrases. They don't understand street talk and how we talk in the community. So when somebody says, go hit that man up, the Caucasian prosecutor says that meant go kill him, when we in the community know that meant just go get your money from him. It's a difference. And unless you in there to say, this is what those words mean, get off me don't mean that you are actually attacking me. It just means you evaded my space. That's all it means. So when we hear these things, but if you don't bring your voice in there, or if you're too afraid to stand up, then that's why so many of us go to prison. And we have to be willing to fight for what is right. I don't mean if you see evidence of a person that committed a crime, you know they committed a crime, and you just gonna say because they a certain color, I'm gonna let them go. No, we're not talking about that. But all right, y'all, that's enough. Y'all call me back for another time. Copep, I want to get in touch with you too. We're gonna need to hook up. All right, so we've had some very good discussions today. Ms. Ward came early this morning, and she really just set it off and talking about mental health. And the word that was used, and Pastor Daly picked up on it, was final. Final. And it's something about that word because, it means that's it. It's final. And we have to learn how to prepare for finality. And all of us are going to expire. I don't care how good you look, how well off you are, all of us have an expiration date. And we need to pay attention to what we are doing with our lives and with our property and with our interest and those things that we have accumulated over the years. And so I'm going to talk about just estate planning. It's no way I can get into everything, but I will talk about some things that I think are very, very important. And when you're talking about estate planning, what you're really just talking about is putting your things in order, getting your house in order. Well, that's what we preachers are doing. We're preaching to you so you get your house in order. Amen. This house in order, because this is really the only house you live in, right? So getting this house in order, your soul in order, so on and so forth. But there are things that you need to take care of concerning the things that you have communicated in your lifetime. And that's why estate planning is so important. And coming out of the pandemic, we saw so many people perish or die. How many of us knew at least one person who died in the pandemic? At least one, right? Just about everybody. How many of us attended the funeral of someone who passed away? Yeah. So we all know it. And it was a very tough time. I was talking with Pastor Daly earlier. My nephew, who's 36 years old, passed. I preached his funeral. He died of COVID right before the what? Oh, yes, the vaccination came out. He died right before that. It was very tough. And so then after a person dies, oftentimes, after the grieving process, people begin to scramble and try to figure out, what did they have in place, or what do we do concerning their property? Even before a person dies, when they're in a hospital, who's going to make decisions? Who's going to do what, And sometimes people, think, well, my family, they know what I want. They know my wishes. When I die, they know who I want to have what. I want this person to have my house. I want this person to have my car. And the truth of the matter is, if you don't have your business straight, when you perish, when you die, excuse me for how I say it, but dead men and women have no wishes. When you die, no matter what you thought, what you wanted, it doesn't matter at that point. Because if you die without a will, the state of Texas is going to tell us how to govern your assets. That is what's going to happen. Many years ago, I had a person come to see me. She's gone on to be with the Lord, but she came to see me. And one of the things, thank you very much, one of the things that we discussed was that she had been in the hospital, desperately wanted to get out of the hospital and go make her will. Because when she went into the hospital, her children started fighting so much that she said, I just need to stay alive to get out and get my house in order. And that was the driving force of her staying alive, was to get out and get her paperwork in order. And she called me the day she got out of the hospital. I met her at her house, because she thought the whole time that her children who got along would get along in her sickness and in her death. And she realized that they would not. And I caution all of you, because that is the truth. People handle sickness and death very differently. And sometimes people go crazy. They do things that you would not think. People start to focus on different things. And one way to settle those things is to have your things in order. All right, they give me a cue on how much time I have. So estate planning, one of the things that would happen if you decide to do estate planning, you're probably going to fill out a document like this. And basically this document's going to ask you basically what your assets are, like you have homes, cars, bank accounts, furnishings, jewelry, art, whatever. It's going to ask you about those things. It's going to ask you who your family is, to identify if you're married, if you have children, so on and so forth. It's going to ask you who you want to be the beneficiary of your estate. It's going to ask you who you want to be the executor of your estate. It's very important that you take the time to answer these questions and answer them thoroughly, because these are your end-of-life documents, okay? And one of the things that people always want to discuss is, well, I have an IRA, or I have, a insurance policy, or my retirement. Those are non-probate assets. Your retirement, insurance policies, IRAs, those kind of things, 401ks, because they already have beneficiaries listed. So you've already said, these are the people who are going to be my beneficiary. We're talking about assets where there is no beneficiary listed, okay? So you need to know how to dispose of those. You can dispose of those in a will, and a will say who I want to get what and how much of it I want them to get. Sometimes people say to me, well, I don't have an estate. Everybody has an estate. Everybody has an estate. What you're really meaning probably is I don't have a whole lot in my estate. But everybody has an estate, right? Because let's say, for instance, you don't have a house, you don't have a car, you don't have a bank account, you don't have any money, and you say, I don't have an estate. I don't need to do a will, right? But you had an ancestor or relative that you did not know about, and then you died leaving no will, nobody cared, and then your ancestors' estate was realized. They turned out to have $100 million in their estate, and they start looking for heirs, and you were an heir. All of a sudden, you who thought you died poor actually were very rich when you died, and you had an estate, and you didn't have a will, so now it goes to your heirs at law. But your heirs at law might include people you never wanted to give anything in your estate. You see why that's important? And then they have to go and determine who those heirs at law are. And that can be a very long process. Whereas if you had a will, that could have been determined in court. It could have been settled in court very efficiently. And so then when your great uncle came up a millionaire, they go and look at your estate and they say, oh, this person's estate has already been administered, and these are the heirs, and these are their respective shares. And everybody else, shut up. Right? So everybody has an estate, okay? And so it's important that you take care of it. You can put some things in trust. I know my time is running. I'm not going to get into trust. That's take a long time. But you can put some things in a trust account so when you die, it doesn't pass through probate. It remains in the trust, and the beneficiaries of the trust can receive those assets. I give you a great example, not here in the United States, but the Queen of England just died. Much of the property and everything that they own is in a trust. It's all governed by a trust. Powers of attorney. Sometimes people talk about, I want to get a power of attorney. There are a couple of real distinct types of powers of attorney. A regular power of attorney basically just says that a person can do certain things for me, like go to the bank for me, go pay bills for me, so on and so forth, right? But the moment you become disabled, that power of attorney really ceases to exist unless it is a statutory or durable type power of attorney. So most people do like a statutory power of attorney that says when I become disabled, then it becomes effective, right? And then some powers of attorney only become effective when you do become disabled. But I'll say this, because this is the most important thing you need to know about a power of attorney. Get somebody that you trust, right? Get somebody that you trust, and understand that when a person dies, the power of attorney dies with them. So you may say, I have a power of attorney over this person, and that person just recently died. You have nothing. Because when that person dies, the power of attorney dies with them. You have to go to court and get what are called letters testamentary, which are kind of like powers of attorney, or letters of administration when a person dies without a will. Okay? Directive to physicians. This is also called a living will. You go into the hospital, and you are in the position where you can no longer make decisions for yourself. You've already given a directive to your physician that if they determine that you cannot live without life-sustaining help, and you are suffering from a terminal illness or an incurable illness, and the only way you can remain alive is that they keep you on a breathing machine, you can direct, do not do that. I don't want to be kept alive in that state, or continue to do that as long as I am alive. Right? Now, if you say, do not keep me alive in that state, it doesn't mean that they just turn off everything and then all of a sudden they don't help you anymore and they sit and watch you waste away. No, you still say, but take care of me. You know, continue to give me, what was that? She said pain medicine. Sometimes no. You can direct it, no, I don't even want pain medicine. But most of the time, they're going to give you something to make you comfortable. So what they're really trying to do is just make you comfortable, but not trying to sustain your life. I always said, I don't want to be kept alive if I'm just laying up on a machine and all it's doing is breathing for me and I'm here every day. I don't want to be kept alive like that. But if there's a chance, I tell them, if there's a chance, y'all don't snatch my chance from me. I always say, my wife always jokes, I always say that whenever I go publicly so everybody know, y'all all heard me say that, don't snatch my chance. And I have my paperwork in hand. You go to the hospital, how many of you gone to the hospital and, you know, we don't know who's going to make the decision. Maybe the spouse has died and the person's a widow or widower, and who's going to make that decision? What's the oldest child? And we start trying to delegate. Well, the family's just making that decision, but really and truly, there is nobody in place to make that decision. It's just a family call. But what happens is when 2 or 3 people say, no, we should make that decision because we stayed with mama, and we should make that decision because we know that you were taking something from mama you once, but you see what I mean? And then you get into, I know Pastor Daly's probably had to deal with that as a pastor, okay? This is called a medical power of attorney. This shuts everybody up. This says, this person has the power to make decisions concerning my medical treatment, period. Now, with all these documents, because I know sometimes, especially our people, we look at this and we say, but what if I don't want them to do that? Or what if I change? I signed this document today, and next week, I don't want them to do it, and then I got this document in place. You can revoke them, okay? Usually it's in writing. So if you do a medical power of attorney, and you decide 2 weeks later, because somebody's acting crazy, I don't want that person, I want their sister, their brother, revoke it and do another one. It's really just that simple. It's the same thing with power of attorney. You can revoke it. He that giveth can take it away. All right? You can also choose, and I'm moving a little quicker than I thought I would have to, but you can also declare who you want to be your guardian. Now, this is, I think, very, very important, because I see a lot of times people get to a place in their life where they can't make decisions for themselves, and then all of a sudden the court says you need a guardian, and then the court tries to scramble to determine who's going to be your guardian. You can just name who's going to be your guardian. That's why I look at my children very, very closely, and I tell my wife, I don't want that one, don't. Because y'all know sometimes, kids, you can kind of identify which kid's going to probably treat you right, and which might pop you on the back of the head. Come on, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? So you can declare your guardian, and notice just these two things. I'm throwing a light at you. Guardian is two things they can be guardian of. She's telling me to stop. Guardian of your person that's taking care of you, and guardian of your estate, like your finances and so on and so forth. Now, I got to say this, and I have to be done. You can talk about what you want done with your remains, funeral, and so on and so forth. But this is the biggest thing for some people who say, I'm not going to do a will, I'm not going to do any of these things, I'm just going to let it flow. The biggest issue that I see with people when somebody dies is that the person who died may not have had a lot of money in their estate. Maybe all they had was a house. And to go and do probate, it may cost you $2,500 at minimum, $2,750, right? And you say, they may only had a, bank account that only had $1,300 in it. Well, the bank account, you can do it with the right of survivorship. So whoever you want to have that money, you can just put them on the bank account with the right of survivorship. You die, it becomes theirs, okay? And with a house, you can do a transfer deed at death. So you can say, at my death, this deed transfers to that person. And I think that's the easiest way to do it, so that property never even goes into probate. It's transferred immediately at the death. And that maybe will save some of your family members money who don't want to go through the whole probate process. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Well, a very good question, Pastor. Remember, your interest is your interest, right? So I have 100% of everything that is of my own interest. So what I'm talking about transferring, or should I say leaving to someone, is always just my interest. I can't leave my wife's interest, okay? But what could happen, and I see this a lot, people do dual wills at the same time. They say, if I perish, everything goes to my wife. If she perishes first, everything goes to me. But I always tell this, and I had a couple in my office some years ago where he was saying, and this is what I want to happen when I die, her part to go here. I said, sir, when you die, your part's going to go to her, and she can now do with it whatever she wants to. She's not limited by what you say. She can go redo this will and say, I want it to go to Timbuktu. And I'll say this too, be careful, because I see a lot of people do this. They say, I'm going to leave everything to my executor, and then I know what my executor is going to do, and I want them to give it to this person. Once you leave your estate to somebody, it's theirs. They don't have to do what you want. You can say, then I make sure my kid gets this, and make sure my cousin gets that. And they're going to go to an attorney, and the first thing an attorney is going to do is read that and says, she left it all to you. So you don't have to give it to them, because it's yours. So once you leave something to somebody in a will, it becomes theirs. You no longer can control what they do with it, right? So be careful, because I see a lot of times people go to, no disrespect to funeral homes or anything like that, no disrespect, but but I see people go to insurance agents or funeral homes and stuff, and they just create this document that says, I leave it to my personal representative, and then my personal representatives to do A, B, C, and D with it. No, you just left it to your personal representative. And they don't have to do it. And here's what's going to happen, right? The personal representative is going to look out over the people they're supposed to give it to, and then they're going to find a reason not to give it to them. They causing me problems. They calling, they asking what's going on. Now I'm frustrated, and they're not going to give it. I saw a lady one time give $400,000 to one son that was supposed to give it to all the siblings. Do you think that happened? Because that son is married, and when that son's wife says, she just left us this money, he just left us this money, and they go talk to a lawyer, that lawyer's going to say, that's your money. And they're going to tell the sisters and the brothers, I'm sorry. And so that's why we have to know what we're doing. Take the time out, pay a little bit of the money, because it will save frustration. It will save frustration. I know we penny pinch and we don't want to do it and we don't need to do it. And that's why we's in trouble, y'all. A lot of times. And I'm closing. I'm putting everything up so you know I'm closing. I'm walking away, Pastor. Ask me a question. But I see that a lot with us. That's why I'm really focusing my attention on wills and estates now, because so many people call me and they say, what can I do? And I say, I'm sorry, there's not a lot, because now you're going to have to go and administer this estate. And, you know, why am I going to go pay $2,500, $2,700 to go try to get $1,300? That's in the bank account. And that money is escheated to the state of Texas, and it may stay with the state of Texas, and then you may learn about it, but then you have to go try to prove that it's yours. And that's the problem, because there may be other people that have that same right to prove it's theirs. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Marshall. You asked for Reverend Culpepper's information. Here's his card. Oh, are you still taking clients?
Oh, yes, I take clients. That's how I live.
Reverend Croom's going to pass out business cards. I want one. All right. Thank you again, Attorney Marshall. Let's give him a round of applause. Before we move to our next one, we're going to do a quick drawing. So get your coupons out, tickets out. The last three numbers are 617. 617. Must be present to win. 617. Yes, sir. Do you have it? Oh, you're asking something else. All right. I'm going to go to another one. 600. 600. 600. 600. Moving on to the next one. Heather, we called out 600 and 618. Okay. 579. 579. Okay, all right. Who is that? Sister Yolanda? Oh, congratulations. Okay. Good for you. Good. I believe you. We're in the house of the Lord. All right. So now we're going to proceed with our last presenter, and we thank everyone for their flexibility, and thanks again to those that have already presented before us. Last but certainly not least, we would like to present. Pastor's only saying that because of the brothers and what they present. Mr. Danzel and Danny Brooks with our pre-planning presenters. Let's give them a round of applause. Yes, they're final.
Afternoon, everybody. My brother Denzel's over there passing out some binders with some great information. You can take it home. You can call us if you have questions on it. It's basically my PowerPoint presentation. I just made an easy version so everyone can look over with me, and I think we're going to get it up there as well. But just a quick introduction. My name is Danny Brooks. That's my brother Denzel. We're Brooks Funeral Home. We're second generation. My father started the funeral home in 1990 in Gonzales, Texas, about 70 miles from here, east, going toward Houston. In 95, we moved the funeral home to San Antonio. 2007, I became a funeral director, and in 2014, I took over to run the operations from day to day with my brother, who's my partner. So we're sticking together, keeping it going. I am a funeral director. My license number is 113247. I graduated, like I said, in 07. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve the community since I was this big with my dad. So I thank the community. I thank Macedonia for the services we've done here, Pastor Daly, First Lady, the church, and the whole community around San Antonio. They've been great to us, and I feel like we've been great in return. So we're going to continue to do that. But today I'm only going to hold you for about 15, 20 minutes to give some great information. And of course, at the end, if there's any Q&A, we'll go into that. I do have this full presentation. Like I said, it's normally an hour, but we've had a good lunch, good morning together. So stand up, stretch if you need to. I won't hold you long. I won't bore you to sleep. Oh, come on up. You're with me. This is a tag team. He's trying to hide. He's the embalmer, so he's in the back, so no one really sees him. But come on up. Okay, real quick, what does a funeral director do? An easy version is we're like a wedding planner, but for the funeral. This is at the end. A good funeral director should dictate and coordinate everything for you to your wishes. You want roses, you want a horse and carriage, you want a balloon release, dove release. They should do all that for you. You shouldn't have to be making all those phone calls. I do meet a lot of families that don't know, I'm working for you. I'm your concierge service in a sense. So I always tell you, families, pick a funeral home that's going to work for you. You should not be more stressed out when they can do that to help. So that's one thing I like to tell families. The next tab I'm going to go on is called Pre-Planning for the Unexpected. It's on the second page, second tab. Death is a life thing, and I think people are uncomfortable to talk about it, but it happens to everyone, and we need to plan accordingly. And the last person was great talking about wills, but a lot of people fail to get to the funeral home or even tell them their wishes, and that's where we kind of step in. I love meeting and working with families before it happens, what we call pre-planning. You can pick out all your wishes, because a lot of families get to the funeral home, grandpa's passed, and they don't know what color they want the casket. And we're funeral guys, so we're gonna pick black. That's our favorite color. So I want you guys to pick, because I will always pick black. But seriously, it's an important conversation. Where do we want the service at? Do we want to take him back home? Maybe he's not from San Antonio. Maybe he's not from Texas, and we can arrange and transfer you back. So that's some things to think about. It's uncomfortable. But I get another batch of families that they'll at least come in, we'll take notes and put it in a folder, even if they never start a plan. They'll sit there, and that happened 2 weeks ago. She didn't pick out or start paying, but she did put what she wanted, and I showed her daughter, and we ended up doing it. So at least have a conversation. Most homes should keep that record. So that's something for you as well. I'm going down. When selecting a funeral home, I think it's very important. A lot of people panic, and I just made a TikTok video about it this morning. The hospital calls, death has occurred maybe at 2, 3 a.m. We've never thought about a funeral home. We don't know. We're not from the city, and the hospital's kind of rushing us. Well, they're telling you need to go to a funeral home. You need to pick one right away, so we just call. But I tell them, let the hospital know, I need some time. Please put my loved one in the morgue for a little while, and call 2 or 3 funeral homes. Google search 2 or 3 funeral homes. You should look at the reviews like it matters. I mean, I do Yelp reviews before I go find the new restaurant I tell Pastor Daly about, so he knows. We're foodies. We're big guys. But treat the funeral home the same. I mean, we have a 5-star rating, so I feel like you should really look into it and see if those reviews are real and sincere, and are you going to meet with Danny or Denzel or Clarence or whoever it may be. You might want to ask for that director who's getting those highly comments. So I hope you pick us, but even if you don't, you should research them, and especially going out of town. I help families. We're a big military town. We're shipping loved ones all the time to Florida, California, up north. They don't even know a funeral home, but that's my job. Is I'll pick 4 of them. I'll say, this is the highest one. This was the most friendliest person on the phone. This person was a little rude. It's up to you. And that's kind of how I like to do things, and I think it should be the same. If they can't take time, if they can't explain prices at night or in the daytime, if they're putting you on hold or an answering service, I'm not saying don't go there, but I like to talk to who's there. I like someone that can slow down a few minutes for me. So that's just kind of throwing it out there for you. All right, the next thing. Yes, sir. So we do get a lot of calls from Mexico, because that happens, so we do transfer. I can't speak Spanish, but one person at the funeral home can. We just have to get her on the phone or call her when she's off, but she can translate. So we actually did a ship in a gentleman from Africa. That was an interesting process. So it was a lot. It's not like calling them in the airport. We had to go through the consulate in Africa. We had to go with the U.S. Embassy on their part. So it's a whole bunch of people, but we got it done. It did take a lot longer than normal, because where he passed, they did not have a hospital, so we had to go to the next country. Long story, but we did get him back home in about 30 days, which is fast for out of the country like that. So, ma'am? He was not military, civilian. Him and his wife were living here. He was building a house over there, and tragically passed while they were just randomly one evening, like a heart attack or something. So, but yeah, you never know. So, but she had a plan. We got him home, and we took care. And she's planning to still finish the house and take the kids over there. Pretty cool. So another thing, the next tab over is checking Facebook. You might check Google as well, but Facebook's a real place for reviews. So I tell people, look at any platform we have available. It's all there, even their website. So the next thing I want to go to is the average cost of funerals. We see the commercials at night, 9, 10 grand. It's true. Funerals are expensive. Cemeteries are expensive. But there's one advantage. There's family-owned funeral homes. There's corporations, and nothing against those corporations, but different funeral homes, your prices can vary by calling 3 of them. So some homes, average overhead, average service, which is in that flyer at the far left, is about 5 grand, and another funeral home down the street might be 12,000. It's not that the quality's not the same. We all offer the same caskets from the same 3 vendors, but we have 9 people on our staff, and nothing against another funeral home down the street might have 40 people on payroll, so their overhead's more, which means you're paying a little bit more. I like kind of to interact and know who I'm dealing with, so I give us a little nod, but that will help change a big difference. Our funeral home is not the biggest, but we can go anywhere. We did funerals here, we've done visitations here, so just because you pick a home, you can still travel anywhere you want. And again, a good funeral director can coordinate all that for you with the work of the church and the pastor. So that's one advantage. When you just shop around, you can save a lot just looking around. The purpose of a funeral, to me, is to celebrate a life. It's, to me, and we laugh and talk about it, it's the end of the movie. We want to put all those wishes together of what you want. Some people want a church funeral with a mass choir, good music, and a good repast. That's at least me. My brother, whole different story, but that's what I want. And I tell people that all the time joking, but I'm old school. I'm young, but I'm old school when it comes to funerals. I do respect the new wave, cremation, memorial services, but it helps when we put that out there and those funeral directors can make your wishes come true for you and your family. So that to me is super important, that at least have the conversation. I do agree we should plan it, but it helps when you kind of throw that out there. So I'm gonna slide over. Today we were in the fellowship hall talking to quite a few people about pre-planning and life insurance. A pre-plan's where you come in, you pick out what you want, and you can pay on it from 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year, and 10 years. Once you pay it off, it's paid in full. You don't have to continue payments. It freezes the cost, which is very great. I wish gas was the same price it was 5 years ago. So that's nice. And then one thing I like, and this should be for every home, you're going to put that money each month in what we call a pre-need account. We work for National Guardian Life. So I hope not, but if the funeral home went out of business, your money's not lost. It doesn't go in our back pocket each month. You're debiting or electronically paying or mailing it into the company, and it's in a trust. Famously, what's the name of that show I like? American Greed. This is a true story. When I first graduated, there was a company called NPS, National Prearranged Services. They'd come around and they'd solicit the funeral homes and say, sell for us. I signed up. The commission was great. I'm 19 years old. I'm making really good paychecks. The numbers aren't really working in my mind. They're not making sense, but they're paying me. The services are getting honored. So about 4 years later, I get a letter, NPS is out of business. They're gone. Lincoln Heritage bought all the accounts. I didn't think any big deal of it. You know, stuff happens. So about 2 years after that, the year's 2015, I'm watching American Greed one night. The CEO took the money, didn't give it back, but it's insured by the government, so none of the families lost their money. And they backed it up. So this new company took over. They, like I said, it was insured and bonded, so everyone's funerals are still getting paid to this date. Oh, I got 10 minutes. Thank you. But what I was going to say is, the long, funny story, they didn't solicit me like the show portrayed. They said they were sending these young, attractive women with short skirts to get these older funeral directors. They didn't do that. They just sent like 2 older guys. I was really mad. I felt I got cheated. but seriously, though, I say that story, and you can Google or look it up, American Greed and NPS. It's a true thing that your money is protected. And a lot of times we hear that, we don't believe it, but I can vouch, I saw it happen. I do work with a different company that's been around, no issues, seems like solid, A rating, but things happen. So the next thing I want to talk about is I'm going to go to, let me see, right here. What to look for pre-burial plans. I talked a little bit about it, but your money's safe, which I just mentioned. And I'm going to go over to life insurance. This is a big one that I hear, the next tab. I think life insurance is very important as well. Ideally, we want to get both. Pre-plan for yourself, life insurance to leave for everyone else. If, you know, economy's different, things are expensive. If you can't get both, if you're healthy enough and can qualify for life insurance, I think it's great because it can leave a little bit extra for everyone else. So I tell families, if we can, if we start early, 30, 40, 50, we probably can get you a great rate. I do work for Mutual of Omaha. I think they're a great company. And it's no advantage from going with me or calling the 1-800 number at night or any insurance agent. I just say shop around, but I do like them. They're a stood-by company. They've been around 130 years, so I think everyone should try to get life insurance. I think most do in here, but it's something to think about. There's a difference, accidental. I get a lot of people that hand me these papers, and the first thing in big font, it says accidental policy. Just so you know, that means you have to pass by an accident, and a lot of people aren't aware. I don't think there's good agents. I think there's good companies, but I don't think they're explaining it because I'm at the end when I'm meeting you in the arrangement. So an accidental is only for like train, plane, something like that, car wreck. Life insurance, whole life, you pay on it the rest of your life. As long as you make your premium, they will pay that out to you and your family toward their personal reasons or funeral expense. And there's term life. Term life is rolling the dice on yourself. It's like you're buying a window for 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. It is cheaper monthly, but you are rolling the dice. I'm not against term life. I tell anyone young, under 40, get a term policy right now. Later on when you're 55 or so, it will cost a little more, but get a whole life. You know, if it's cheaper to help you right now, get something. And that's my best advice. I'm going to go over to when death happens. As I mentioned earlier, just take your time, do some research, look around. I know you're panicking. A lot of people, they're worried. But I tell families, you're in charge. Like I said, we're going to work for you or whatever funeral home they should. So just remember, you're the boss, and we're going to follow your orders, your wishes to the best of our ability. The next thing is normally this process starts from average of 3 to 7 days from a funeral from the day we get the call. This is where we get the first call from the hospital, pick the loved one up, bring them to the funeral home, meet you the next morning for funeral arrangements, coordinate with the church, the cemetery for your burial. I got a nice little red checklist of where you go and what to do, so you can check that out in your leisure. I'm gonna go over one more thing. I got some really great tabs in the back called Survivor's Checklist. These are great things for veterans, key terms that funeral homes use, like definitions. So this should help you out too as well whenever you have time. The next tab I wanna go to, and I'm gonna skip over today because we just talked about wills and probate, but I do think that is important. A lot of people do ask me, and I got someone I can refer to. I do have some others, but it is important to do plan on that. You just don't wanna leave anything unturned. There are some programs, there are a few people in the city, in the community that don't have anything. They're homeless, no money planned. We have a thing called the county contract. That's where they'll bury anyone in the city or cremate for free. You do have to qualify and fill that out. Currently today, Emmy Rodriguez Funeral Home off Frio Street has the contract. We had it in the early 90s. It's a great program. So if you know somebody that's really struggling, just be a friend and pass that advice. The next thing I can mention, veterans, there's a lot of benefits. An easy, quick way is what happens in the gates is covered by the military. What happens outside the gates you have to pay for, because a lot of people say, my dad served, it's free. Well, the cemetery in there is free, but the funeral home part costs. So that's something a lot of people aren't aware of and don't know. So that's something to look out for. And then other than that, I know I'm winding up on time. That was the fast forward version. But did anybody have any questions or anything I can try to answer for you? We got it? Bud Jones. Thank you for that, Pastor. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. I got one question over here. This is an excellent question. All pre-needs in the United States are 100% transferable. The reason is, nothing against Lewis or any funeral home. What if they went out of business? They couldn't do it. So you are able to transfer at your choice, at your time. You can do it before you pass, or your loved ones can bring that policy into the funeral home when that does happen. So you do have that option, not trying to push anyone to transfer. And we've had a few people transfer. They move out of state. I'm not in Florida. I wish I was. I can't serve them. So it's no hard feelings. I tell families, do what's best for you and make the best decision and best fit for you guys. So could any more before we take off? I think that's it. Okay, well, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. We're located on East Houston Street. We're right across the street from the AT&T Center, right by the tracks. Pray for us. Monday, we will be remodeling the outside of the current location, and then we purchase property on FM 78, kind of by Kirby, Judson area. So prayerfully, late next year, our new facility will be up. COVID hit, so it kind of delayed us. The wood's too expensive, and lumber and steel. So we took a little break till the rates come down. But we do have the land secured. We're just waiting to kind of get it going. So keep us in prayer, and we'll be here. Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. We do that all the time. It's called the forwarding of remains. You could have a full funeral here, viewing casket, church service, and then we can get you to the connected funeral home back home. It's pretty easy to do. We need to get a burial transit from the medical examiner, and we need to schedule with the airline and the receiving funeral home. But we do it a lot because we're a big military town. So we're sending and receiving a lot of people both ways, but very easy to do. It kind of is, but your bill will be kind of split in half because I'm only doing so much and they're picking up the torch and doing the rest. So you're only buying one casket, you're doing one embalming, you're doing one air flight, ship out, and then you're using their hearse, their chapel. You get what I'm so it's kind of split. It's not a horrible, a lot of people say, oh, it's 20, it's not. It's really about the same. The airline price today on average is about $650. We have to do what we call ship out with human cargo. And we do it we're registered with all airlines, but we like Southwest and Delta. A lot of flights were canceled during COVID, so those are the most reliable for us. We don't have room for that, so they're the most reliable to me. So that's who we use for when we ship out loved ones. Yes, sir. Currently, Facebook, website, and I just started pushing the TikTok. I'm not a big fan, but I know people are more in touch with videos than reading nowadays, so I'm pushing a lot of videos to just kind of get out short stuff. Yes, I'm sorry, dwbrooksfuneralhome.com. Of course, if you Google or pull up Brooks Funeral Home, it'll pull it up as well. So, yes, sir, our website's great. Has all our prices, testimonials, and you can fill out questionnaires. You can fill out pre-planning info if you want in your privacy. And it's pretty cool if someone's ever in need of help. There's a tool that we have. We're registered with a few banks in the area. They can apply for financing privately. So if they are struggling, they don't have to make that known. They can do it in their privacy. They come in, hey, I was approved for this, and they can kind of get it going. We've helped a lot of families that don't know. A lot of people don't finance funerals, but we're partnered with a few banks, so it helps. All right. Texas was the last state to cross 50% 3 years ago before COVID. Cremation is on the rise. Today, we cremate about 65% of our services. I say that though because it's changed, because a lot of people now are doing the rental funeral casket and then cremating after, which is very popular. It's the third tab on this, or fourth tab, and that's where you have a full funeral. Then after we'll do the cremation. So it helps save because you don't have to pay the cemetery in a sense, but you still get a viewing. We did that for my grandmother as well. She wanted to be cremated. My mom wanted a funeral. So before we went back and forth, and that was the best solution. They both got what they wanted. So yeah, cremation is on the rise. It's coming. I think it's great that the family picks what they want. I want to be in the ground and take a spot, but I respect, like I said, any way you want. So yes, sir. I'm old school. It's a good time. You're right. During the pandemic, we were waiting on average 20 days to get into Fort Sam Houston. One thing I do tell families, if you can, bring the DD-214 the first day. The funeral home should be calling and working to schedule you immediately. I'm doing that normally before my vet families come in. I'm asking them to email or fax it to me, because the quicker I can get you on there, the quicker we can do the service. And keep in mind, they don't do services, burials on Saturday or Sunday. If there is a holiday that connects on the Monday, they will, but that's too risky. Like, what's the odds, for the Monday holiday? So bring it in. Today, it's about 7 to 10 days to get in. So we just scheduled for a veteran yesterday, and he's going in, I think, November 3rd or 4th, somewhere around there. So not too bad right now. It's getting a little better. Okay. Yes, sir. That's a really, really good question, sir. That was a good one. Oh, you're a barber. Okay. We're getting a plug in. But no, again, I can't do anything special. That's Denzel's expertise, but we can generally give men a great shave, groom, stuff like that. If it's a younger person, they want like designs and stuff, I do contract a barber that can do the fancier stuff. We do have a beautician, cosmetologist on staff, so she handles a lot of the women for those special requests. But just standard mustache and beard, we kind of can handle. But again, if you want your barber or your beautician, by all means, we're excited. We love that because they know how you wanted your hair or style. So we will never tell a family they can't bring in who they want. So, but we don't charge extra if we have to shave a gentleman. If it's like braids and the stuff that's a little more difficult, I have to get a specialist. But, curling, bumping, perm, like that kind of normal, I'm not the cosmetologist, but that kind of stuff is no problem. I respect that. We got a colorful staff at the funeral home, so we got all colors. But we would have Denzel personally take care of you, but we do have staff of different colors to support different races. And I say that respectfully. You want somebody that kind of knows how to deal with that hair or texture. It's different. And I'm not saying funeral homes are different, but we have people that can fit those different needs. Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay. Yes. When we stream a lot of the services, if they let us do it, it's connected. And I'm sorry I didn't say our YouTube page as well. But I am always open, and we can talk afterwards for someone else, because sometimes we need a backup, and who knows, maybe the rate might steal it. So we're always open to that. And it is a need. The pandemic really showed more than ever that you need to be set up and able to stream services. So everybody's learned in business that if you're not streaming right now, you're going to hurt a lot of families' wishes. So, okay. I think we got it. I really want to thank you guys for the opportunity, the church. Miss Val, I appreciate it. I know you could have picked any funeral home in the community, but seriously, it means a lot. If you know anyone outside of the church, another church home, we go speaking all the time. I never charge. I love to do it. Just give me a heads up about how many people so I can provide a little information at the end. So please share our name, my number. Again, Danny Brooks, Denzel Brooks. I stole all the mic time, but he's hiding in the back, so he's the one that does the magic. So if there's ever an issue, you need to get with him. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys again. It was an honor.
Thank you again, Brooks Brothers. You did an awesome job. Let's give them another round of applause. Well, we've come kind of to the conclusion of our program. We want to thank all of our presenters from this morning as well as this afternoon. Let's give everyone a round of applause. We also want to thank our vendors. I know a lot of them are still in the fellowship hall, but thank them for coming out and supporting our second annual I Am Your Neighbor event, as well as being participants in today's briefings, in today's presentations that we've held. So before I turn it over to Pastor to give any closing remarks, I am going to go ahead, because we still have a few prizes, and do maybe one or two gift prizes. All right, last three numbers are 590. 590. 590. 602. 602. 602. Okay. 572. Val, and she was just saying, I never win anything. 502, I'm sorry, 572. Come on up, Miss Val.
As they would say about me, rigged. Set up.
All right, we're gonna do one more. This one actually, instead of doing, pulling a number per se, if someone can tell me one thing that they've learned today through our presentations. Miss Linda?
I can transfer my pre-burial planning to any funeral home I want to.
Very good. And for that, you get a prize. Awesome. It wasn't a setup, it really wasn't. Well, before I turn it over to Pastor Daly, Reverend Felder, was there anything, lasting words you wanted to impart? Thanks for everything, exactly. Thanks for everybody. Pastor, you have a microphone?
Thank you for allowing me to stay back here. This has been a wonderful day. This has been a wonderful day. If one person was helped, that's one more than before having it. And I already heard someone say, I'm so glad I came. And that made, yes. And I thank God for, learned a lot, amen. That would not have happened if we had not had this. I want to thank the Social Justice Ministry of Macedonia Baptist Church under the direction of Reverend Felder and Yolanda Turner, and all the workers, the persons, Sister Lewis and Sister Butler, for giving key leadership for this, and all the members of social justice, behind the scene, those in front. It's because of your efforts it was a success. And I never want you to thank God for Deacon Trevor Alabi, who's responsible for our sound and our video, our screen, for everything that has taken place. The meal, it was just a wonderful time. As always, we always wish we had more, because they would have gotten something, but never gauge success based upon those who don't come. You gauge success on the effort that you put into it. And I want to tell you, you put a whole lot into it. I know that firsthand. And people were helped. And I was helped. And we thank God for you. This is not it of our efforts. We have one more event, one more major event, and that's our Souls to the Polls. and we're going to go on October the 5th Sunday, the 30th, right after morning worship at Macedonia. We're going to the polls together, and we're going to vote, because we heard Reverend Marshall say that we have to be concerned about who we elect. You can't expect change with the wrong people. And so we're doing everything we can in our power to bring about that change. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of what has taken place here today. May God bless you. May heaven smile upon your face, and go in peace. Let's all stand. Again, I don't have all the words to express how proud of you I am, but I am so proud of you. Can we give another hand to our presenters? To all of them, those that have departed. And again, I love Danny and Denzel, and they know it. I tell their parents, those are our sons too. And that's how we feel about them. Father pastors the Tridestone Baptist Church, and what is the date, Danny, for the revival? November 8th and 9th. Friend and brother, Reverend Dr. William Timothy Glenn is going to be their anniversary revival preacher, and we're going to be in support of that. He was just elected on Thursday as the president of the Missionary Baptist General Convention of Texas. Just elected. So that's a major opportunity to hear him. He's been here before. Let's bow our heads. Lord, we pause to say thank you for what took place today. It didn't just happen. Prayer took place. Planning took place. And whenever prayer and planning and preparation take place, we can expect your favor and blessings upon it. We thank you for our food providers, those that we have met for the first time. We thank you for our able presenters who shared information with us that we were not aware of. Bless them, O God, and may we internalize that which we have heard for our good. We thank you, O God, for elected officials who came over to be a part of what is taking place. Our own council person who came, we thank you. We thank you, O God, for Dr. Baptiste, who came all the way from Louisville, Kentucky, because he wanted to be here. We thank you for this social justice ministry at Macedonia Baptist Church, the leadership of that ministry, the key workers of that ministry, and every member. Now, God, the work is not over. We must work the works of him that has sent us while it is day, because night is coming when no man can labor. Now take us, we pray, from this designated holy place to our designated homes, because there's danger from where we are to where we're going. Bring us, oh God, back to worship to whatever church we are members of in the morning. If you wake us up, our minds will be stayed on Jesus. Now may the love of God, sweet communion of the Holy Spirit, rest, rule, and abide with these thy people, now, henceforth, even and forevermore. And all of God's people said, amen and amen. Give the Lord a hand praise, and all who made this possible. Boy, this has been great.